The second SRX race at Stafford has officially concluded, and we see some awesome racing, some major brake issues, and Ryan Newman picking up another victory at Stafford. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. I just got done watching the second race of the SRX season for 2023, the second straight race of the SRX at Stafford. Last week, we saw Denny Hamlin pick up his first SRX victory. Let's talk about the second SRX race at Stafford. Let's begin with heat number one. On the front row, you had Tony Stewart and Hailie Deegan, and for this first 3 or 4 laps, we saw some really good racing up front between Tony Stewart and Hailie Deegan, and Deegan was actually able to hold on to the first caution. Came out on lap number 4 for Brad Keselowski, who I believe got turned by either Marco Andretti or Paul Tracy, and Brad Keselowski spun out and would finish in the back. Then eventually Tony Stewart was able to pass Hailie Deegan on the restart and will continue to dominate and pull off and hold off Paul Tracy to win heat number 1. So Tony Stewart won heat number 1. Paul Tracy got second. Daniel Suarez finished third. He was really strong tonight. And Hailie Deegan would end up finishing 4th, with Ryan Preece finishing in 5th. Then heat number 2, they inverted the order. You had Kenny Wallace, who actually started on the pole in the second heat, and they had Brad Keselowski, who was on the front row as well. This race went a little more straightforward. He had a couple cautions that ended up happening. I believe there was contact and a retaliation between Ken Schrader and Paul Tracy, where Ken Schrader got payback and basically took Paul Tracy out, which I think was fair and justified as retaliation for the incident there. The race continued on. Kenny Wallace started falling back, and at this point, it came a race between Brad Keselowski, Ryan Preece, and the other Ryan Newman, that being Ryan Newman. It was a really good battle. Ryan Preece tried to get a really strong run on Brad Keselowski, but it would not be enough. And coming off the final corner, Brad Keselowski would hold off Ryan Preece to win heat number 2. So then we got to the main event itself, and we saw Ryan Preece start on the pole after finishing 5th and 2nd in his heats. He was starting on the pole, with I believe Daniel Suarez starting on the front row. At the start of the race, Ryan Preece would completely dominate. That number 41 car was extremely strong. There would be a lot of contact that started happening early. I think they went 32 or 33 straight laps of green flag racing, which is really, really exciting, really, really fun. Then the first caution came out for the fun flag. Then a little bit later, we saw, I think, another caution come out. I think it was either for, Kenny Wallace and a couple other guys coming down pit road during the fun flag caution. Then the second caution came out for Kenny Wallace, who stalled on the racetrack. Then we went back green, and I think we stayed green for pretty much most of the time. And then, with 9 or 10 laps to go in the main event, Hailie Deegan, I don't know if she had issues with brakes. Not like she was complaining about her brake issues during the break. She unfortunately got into Paul Tracy and spun Paul Tracy out. To be fair to Hailie Deegan, I don't think that's completely on her. I think Paul Tracy came down on her. He washed up on the track, and she got this inside, and she got into him. I think that's just a racing incident to me. Oh, by the way, one of the heat races, Gray Biffle actually also got turned by Daniel Suarez and wrecked hard. I think that was more on Daniel Suarez than anything else, but I also will say that was a racing incident as well. So then came down to a restart with about 10 laps to go. And Tony Kanaan had actually gotten a race lead from Ryan Preece, who had made a mistake earlier in the race about 20 laps to go, where his car just completely washed up the racetrack, and he got the lead. And it looked like Tony Kanaan was going to run away with this thing. But then, with 10 laps to go on the restart, Tony Khan lost his brakes and hit the outside wall very, very hard. That did not bring a caution out, but then a few laps later, about a lap later, Brad Keselowski would get dumped by Paul Tracy going to turn number 2, bringing the caution out, I believe the final yellow of this race. This meant that Daniel Suarez would be the race leader, with Ryan Newman starting in second position. And it came down to those two guys battling for the race win. So Daniel Suarez would get a really strong restart, was able to pass Ryan Newman. We knew Ryan Newman had been saving his stuff and save his equipment, and was setting up to make a pass on Daniel Suarez. And we get there around about 3 or 4 laps to go, and was able to pass Daniel Suarez for the race lead. Daniel Suarez tried to run him back down, but it would not be enough for him. And coming off the final corner, Ryan Newman, who won Stafford last year in 2022, is about 2 or 3 laps away from winning the race last week at Stafford, will come off the corner and continue his kingdom of Stafford and SRX and pick up a second career SRX victory and his first SRX win of 2023. Look, Ryan Newman, I don't know if he had the best car tonight, but he certainly did the best job of saving his stuff and saving your equipment. And especially with the braking issues we'll talk about a little bit, you got to save your brakes if you're going to survive these events. And Ryan Newman just did that, and that's how he went on to win the race. And I love seeing Ryan Newman go out there and win. I think Ryan Newman can honestly win the championship this year. He's really good at dirt tracks. I think he's going to have a really good chance to win the championship. But nonetheless, massive congratulations to Ryan Newman. I think he deserves the win. He was up front all night. He had to go to backup car early in the race as well, and I think heat number 2. But nonetheless, great to see Ryan Newman come in and pick up the victory. Major congratulations to Ryan Newman. So now, let's go ahead and take a look at the race results from Stafford, and I'll give you my score and thoughts on the race. So Ryan Newman picks up the victory. Daniel Suarez finishes second. Daniel Suarez had a top-tier, top-three car most of the evening. He did fall back a little bit once Ryan Newman got by him, but he still ends up finishing second. Great night for Daniel Suarez. This, I believe, is his only race planned for 2023. Hope he comes back next year because I think it was really cool to see Daniel Suarez run up front. He ends up finishing second. Great run for him. Marco Andretti finishes third. Marco Andretti, he also saved his equipment, and he struggled in the beginning. At one point, was back in 9th or 10th. So for him to finish in the top 5, I think is really, really impressive. And that's why I think he's going to have a chance to win this championship in the SRX again this year. Finished third. Great night for him. Ken Schrader finishes fourth. Fantastic night for Ken Schrader. Ken Schrader was quiet most of the night, too. He did, of course, have his issues with Paul Tracy earlier in the day, but he saved his equipment and stuff and gets a very solid top 5 finish. Great run for Ken Schrader. Greg Biffle finishes fifth. Greg Biffle did a very incredible job coming up to the field. I think he had a car was capable of maybe contending for top 2 or top 3 near the end, but he gets a very solid top 5 finish. I think this is Greg's only start that he's planned for this year, so good to see Greg Biffle back in the SRX. He almost had a chance to contend. Good run for Biffle in fifth. Bobby Labonte finished at 6th. Bobby Labonte was about a 10th place car most of the night. He was one of the cars that came down the road during the first fun fly that came out and does recover to finish in 6th. Tony Stewart finished 7th. Tony Stewart had one of the better cars in the field, but unfortunately near the end of the race, like many drivers will talk about here at the end of this video, he unfortunately had no brakes near the end. It was starting to fade through the field. I think Tony Stewart had a shot at maybe winning if he saved himself a little more, but nonetheless, he finishes 7th. Hailie Deegan finishes 8th. Not as good a run for her as she did have last week. She did start on the pole for the heat. I just feel like that she got into Tracy. She was actually contending and moving through the field. Made that mistake and got into Tracy. Although I'm not completely put blame on her, though. We'll say because Paul Tracy kind of deserves it in a sense. But she did get into Paul Tracy, even though it was kind of his fault. But Hailie Deegan struggled a little bit tonight, fell back. She was complaining about brake issues, and it kind of put her out a little bit. I thought she run better tonight, but she's got some dirt tracks coming up where I really think she could be a threat at those tracks. Nonetheless, she does cross the finish line in 8th, though I thought she'd have a chance to win the race tonight. Kenny Wallace finishes 9th. Kenny Wallace does finish better than where he started. He struggled most of the race. He's going to run one more race at the end of the year at Lucas Oil. It's a shame. I think Kenny Wallace truly did have a car that could have been a little better, but he got some damage early in an event from Brad Keselowski crash and put him in a bad position. Brad Keselowski finished 10th. Brad Keselowski got dumped by Paul Tracy, got a ton of damage, and he was actually really fast tonight. I thought would have a chance to win this evening, but nonetheless, he finishes 10th after getting wrecked out. Paul Tracy finished 11th. Paul Tracy also got crashed out in that event as well. Got a lot of damage in that and went to the garage. But he was really fast tonight. Before that, was not really making any enemies and mistakes. But unfortunately, he kind of wrecked himself and cost him there. Tony Kanaan finished 12th. Man, Tony Kanaan, I think he had a shot to easily win this race tonight. He was leading, coming to that caution, was leading on the race start, and then his brakes went to the floor and hit the outside wall really, really hard. Tough break for Tony Kanaan. I think he easily could have won this race tonight. And then Ryan Preece finishes 13th. Ryan Preece dominated this race. He had, for sure, the fastest car on the racetrack tonight. But unfortunately, we kind of started noticing cracks starting to show when he made that mistake at Stafford about 25 laps ago in the race. And then he started fading through the field. And we just knew at this point that he wasn't going to have a chance. It's a shame because I think he was everyone's favorite. He's my pick coming into the weekend. It's a shame to see what happened to him. I hope Ryan Preece comes back and runs some more SRX races because it's disappointing to see him go out like this. Maybe he runs next year at Stafford. Who knows at this particular point. So, that is the race results. Now let's talk about the overall race as a whole. I think this race actually did run a little bit more smoother than the first race. I feel like the first race, especially ESPN's coverage, I think they did a much better job this week than they did last week. But that's my honest opinion. Talking about the braking issues. That's one thing I think a lot of people are going to be talking about is the brake issues that really came into play. I think the brake issues were really, really big and major problem, unfortunately. And I feel like that's something that needs to get talked about and hopefully get resolved next week. Because they said they had fixed the brake issues because there were issues after the first race. But unfortunately, brakes are a huge thing. And you can't really change this unless you go to the thing. And you can't come down to pit road and you might lose a lap. So it takes a long time to change these brakes. So that was a huge thing that hurt the race, in my opinion, near the end. And took out some really good contenders, which is disappointing. Despite that, I thought the racing was really, really good tonight. It was very, very enjoyable. I'm going to give tonight's SRX race review from Stafford, the second edition at this track. Overall, I'm going to give this race a 9 out of 10. Actually, 9.5 out of 10. It would have been a perfect score if not for the issues that happened on track, but I thought the racing tonight was very, very solid and very, very enjoyable as we get ready to come up to this weekend at Pocono for NASCAR Cup, Xfinity and Trucks, and also IndyCar at Iowa, and also F1 at Hungary. I thought tonight's race was pretty good. So that is going to be for the race review from the SRX race at Stafford. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so notify when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's get jump over that and comment your thoughts on today's video. Your thoughts on today's race, let me know below. Let me know your score in the comments below, and congratulate Ryan Newman on picking up the victory. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel is going to be 2 videos on the channel. The first one coming out early in the morning about Shane Van Gisbergen and where he could end up driving in 2024. And then later in the day, we'll have a NASCAR news. We'll have a little bit of follow-up on the Justin Haley news that shockingly came out today. Then on Saturday, we are going to have 2 videos on the channel, 2 race reviews for the Xfinity and truck race at Pocono. And then on Sunday, of course, we'll have the NASCAR Cup Series race review from Pocono. And we have a lot of content dropping on the channel that I think you're going to enjoy. We're trying to get 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year, or really soon. So if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching tonight's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.